Hi everybody, welcome back to a slightly delayed SQUATCAST. There has been loads released over the last few weeks, so in this video we're going to go through all those releases and the big release for Nova Open and wonder, I guess, where we go from here. Hi everyone, so yeah, it's been a few quiet weeks from me. I've been extremely busy with work, so I've been mostly keeping up on what's happening in the incredibly important world of space dwarves. And the answer to that is the Votann are coming out, isn't it? That's what's actually happened. The Votann are about to be released. We've had a few different updates, so we'll go through them all in this video. But the big one everyone knows is the Nova Open release with all basically filled in the whole army and then announced an army set. And that brings up a lot of things to discuss, certainly for me, about what I'm actually going to do when these models come out, how I'm going to use those rules. But for now, look, let's just go through briefly all the articles that appeared on Warcom over the last few weeks. So, first one here. Lead your kin host from the front with the skill, determination and giant fist of a Leagues of Votann Kahl. So, this guy called Kahl got released. Yeah, look at him. So, I think I said in the last SQUATcast that the only thing they were really missing was a leader, and then they'd have something they can at least start an army with. And that's true. So, this guy was the next thing to be released. This is a couple of weeks ago now. Even the most level-headed Hearthkin warriors and battle-ready Chthonian berserks need a stern voice at their back from time to time. So when an Oathbound marches to war, it's the job of the Kahl to lead them to victory. So this is Kahl here. I think he's got a lot of weapon options. He's got an axe here, and I quite like the fact that he's got an obvious just Stormbolter, right? Just carrying a Stormbolter. Kahl with his Stormbolter. Standing on some tactical rocks, very good, to make him tall enough to, you know, compared to all the other models, presumably. Appointed from amongst the League's most skilled and dependable warriors, these generals are the final authority over an individual Oathband. Subordinate only to their kindred's ruling Votannic Council, the Kahls back up decades of hard-won experience with rigorously drilled combat skills and the League's signature advanced weaponry. And he's red because he's from the Ymir conglomerate, and the teal ones are the Thurian League. They'll have different sub-factions. Basically, this article is, look, here's a leader. I mean, there's not really much to say about him. There's not even much new fluff. He's like the leady version of the Hearthkin. Yeah, that's what he is. He's got his coat on, which I always like to see, to keep him warm in that armour, presumably. He's got a massive punchy fist. He's got some Volkite. So, you know, still continuing the theme of dwarves, squats, Votann being vaguely related to the Imperium, or at least having access to some of the original technology that's diverged since then. I quite like how much these helmets here look like the Squat Prospector Necromunda ones, and more on that later, because that handily goes into my plans for how I'm going to do an army. But yeah, first thing we got was this guy called Kahl, who leads your army. Every leader's called Kahl. They're all just called that for some reason. It's probably something to do with clone skins. They just clone Kahl again and again and again to lead all the different Oathbands. Fine, great. So we got that. Then the following week we get these guys. Drop the wrench and pick up the cannon. The Brokhyr Thunderkyn are marching to war. So this is interesting. Brokhyr, we know, we've been told before, are the engineer class. That used to be the engineering guild. If you were following old squats, there would be like a separate engineering guild, but that's now called Brokhyr. So the Brokhyr Thunderkyn are, we've seen plenty of awesome League of Votann technology, from nimble Sagittars, those are the moon buggies, I think, to thundering Iron Here exo armour, but we've only scratched the surface of the ingenious kin that create them all. So, we're going to get more Brokhyr in a bit, but these guys are the first to be released, which look like some sort of heavy weapon support exo blokes. When the Oathbound head into battle, they sent powerful exo frames to become the mighty Thunderkyn. These are adapted from engineering rigs and allow them to heft man-portable weapons, heavy weapons, hordes of enemies before bolt cannon salvos, while heavy infantry find themselves pierced by the unstoppable lances of SP conversion beamers. I do like the rolling out of old Rogue Trader weapons as standard weapons for the squads. Great, here we are. There they are. They're rough and workmanlike, far cry from Kahl's beautiful armour. But they get the job done, and the Brokhyr would have it no other way. So, yeah, again, fun. So these are guys standing in mini baby carriers, right? Which we know is already a Imperial staple. Centurions, they look a bit similar to the Centurion rigs, or that new Primaris, not quite a Dreadnought, where the guy runs around in, or even Dread Knights a bit. But then what can you do with a sort of Avatar-style baby carrier? One of the things that I find quite interesting about this is they look like mining rigs, which might make them really useful in Necromunda for actual squats. I quite like that. I guess I wish they looked more distinct from the... And maybe it's my old squat mentality going on here, but I like the idea that the engineers look different, and these guys just look like the regular guys in an exo rig, right? I don't know. Maybe I would have preferred... I guess their little goggly hats show them they're engineers. There's one. Yeah, so that's great. We've got some heavy support. I didn't really expect these to be announced, because I was kind of thinking they'd just do a leader and then release it. But oh, how wrong I was, because then a little later it was Nova Open. This was only last week, and they did a huge amount of reveals. So obviously they're going to reveal the whole army at Nova Open. So let's watch the little video they have for us, leagues ahead, which sort of gives away everything we're about to talk about. But here we go. Turn that down a bit. So here we go. So they live in cyberpunk land, apparently. God, that's loud. Right, so we've got Chthonian Berserks. Those are the Slayers, who are also the Miners. And they've got their stuff. They've got the Sagittor. That's the moon buggy that we saw a few weeks ago. Einhir Champion. He was released quietly, I think. He's an Exo Squat leader. Brilliant. Einhir Hearthguards. Those are the Exo Squats. We know about them. Brokhyr Iron Masters. He's an engineer guy with some robo buddies. We'll get to him in a second. Thunderkyn Pioneers. Those are the bikers. And we got some new options for bikers. They're all obviously wearing their big thick coats because it's cold in the bike. And then we get the Grimnir. We'll get to him in a bit. He's basically a reimagining of the Living Ancestor. Then we got the Brokhyr Thunderkyn, who are, as we just saw, the heavy weapon guys, and the Hearthkin Warriors, who are the normal warriors. And finally, this big truck thing, like a giant moon buggy, Hekaton Land Fortress. And then finally, Uthar the Destined. So we have to have a special character, obviously. I didn't really expect one of these so quickly, but yeah, good, fine. And a big box with all the stuff in it. So they're going to release this like they did with Indomitus and other things as an army set with a load of stuff in it. There they are. Not maybe as much of an army set as I want, but hey. And there's a book, which I think has been leaked to the internet, but I don't really care. The rules are not my strong point. So there we go. That's all coming out September, which is now. So when will that be? Okay. Let's go through all the things. You've all probably seen these already, but we have the Hekaton Land Fortress, as the bad cats say, the Heckin Land Fortress, which looks like a great big version of the moon buggy, or as many people have said, the turtle van from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, that's big. That's a big thing. Yeah, it's continuing that sort of like space explorer vibe, which I quite like. Yeah, fine. It's got a load of guns poking out all over it, which that's a modern 40k thing, isn't it? But fine, that's a conversion beam, it looks like. It's going to have a few options, of course it is. And I particularly like the little robo buddy helping him drive it. So there we go. We have a big tank now. So we've got the little buggies, which I think the buggies are meant to be like 2 buggies, transport a squad. And then here's your big vehicle. Great. Then we have Uthar the Destined. Most accomplished hero of the Greater Thurian League. Kahl Uthar the Destined, also called Kahl, is a ruthless warrior armed with masterfully wrought weapons, including the legendary Blade of the Ancestors, which inexplicably is not an axe. With a gift for assessing enemy foes, he ensures that the kin hosts he leads strike with swift and brutal precision. So, yeah, fine. I'm not really one for special characters. I prefer to make my own fun things up. It's pretty obvious that this guy is an alternate kit, an alternate build of the regular Kahl box, because he's standing in exactly the same way. So I would expect all those bits to just come in the Kahl box, and you can build it as a Kahl or as Kahl Uthar. We then got the Ironhair champion running forward with his very, very big hands. So he's... fine. I mean, what else can you say? He's an Exo Squat champion. And then we get to the interesting stuff. So the Brokhyr Iron Master's fun, isn't he? So this is an engineer. Brokhyr are the league's highly skilled techno-artificers, and the Iron Masters are the cream of the crop. They head into battle with dutiful Ironkin assistant, which is that guy. I think we saw him really early on when they introduced the concept of their robot buddies. And a knack for repairing even the most beaten-up vehicles. Helping him are a gaggle of E-cogs, which are like drones? Hardy combat and repair drones, lacking the intellect of a true Ironkin. Cool, okay, we don't know what he's going to do yet. I like the sort of... He reminds me a bit of one of the White Dwarf models. He also reminds me of the old Engineer Guild Master. That's this guy. I'm a little sad that he doesn't look like the other old squat engineer, which is this Adeptus Mechanicus bloke in power armor. Quite liked that. But, fine. He looks okay. I'm happy with that. He is, I'm not sure about the way these are flying. I just find that a bit annoying. I think I'd rather have them on flight stands, to be honest. But they don't look too difficult to convert. And then we get to this guy. Everyone loves this guy. This is the Grimnir. So the Grimnir, the mighty ancestors, this is interesting, guide the leagues of Votann with their inscrutable wisdom. The primary conduits between Kin and Votann are the Grimnir. Kin blessed with psychic powers from a rare and important clone skein. These living ancestors are the closest you'll usually find to priests among the largely secular leagues, and use barrier tech to help them harness the raw power of the Materium in battle, such as the two mechanical corvs that hover alongside them. Whether they are like some sort of psychic amplifier or just guys with guns, I don't know. So, yeah, he looks like a wizard. So I wasn't really expecting these to pop up again. The squats used to have living ancestors, and the idea used to be that when a squats would live for a few hundred years, but then a very small amount of squats would live for way longer than that. And if they reached like 500 or 600 years, they'd start to develop psychic powers. And they'd become these living ancestors who were in touch with the great squat ancestors of the past. Fine. I think this is obviously a slightly different interpretation of the same idea, that occasionally they make a psychic squat who can commune with the Votann. Interesting that you need to be psychic to do that, given that they're big STCs, which is, interesting development. He's looking fun, isn't he? There is a female head available for this, and there's a few different heads available. Looking extremely wizardly, but I'm glad that's still a thing in the squats. And then finally, there's a Chthonian Berserk Mole Grenade Launcher. Now, this is the only one that I'm not too sure about. Obviously, Mole Mortars, that's a big squat thing, so they've come back. And we have seen Mole Mortars since then in the form of Death Quarter Krieg ones, who also use mole launchers. So it's good to see the old mining mole launcher in. But... And they're a 60mm based two-person weapons team like the Imperial Guard have. But I do kind of like it when they both look like they're doing something. This looks like someone who can quite happily carry that very small mole launcher on their own. And then an axe guy carrying stuff? I don't know. It's not... for a weapons team, it is not my favourite look at how a weapons team works, right? But yeah, fine. So you got your mole launcher. And then finally, there is the Votann army set. So, what you get in here is 3 bikes, Kahl Uthar Destin, which of course I think just means a Kahl, and the Ironhair champion, and then 20 blokes. Fine, I imagine that's a fine start to a force. And then there's a codex, which has been which is out soon, I assume. I think it might have accidentally been released. And then they give us a little bit of information on what's coming up. So yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? There have been some other things out. There was a battle report on Warhammer Plus, which, to be honest, I'm not a huge... I mean, Warhammer's not a great spectator sport. I don't really watch battle reports. It's not fun for me. But I do like their grudge-bearing things. Like if the enemy do basically anything to them, then they get very annoyed about it, and that gives them what looks like marker light tokens, basically, and you can spend them to to hurt that enemy, which is quite fun. They were playing against Astra Militarum, odd as they haven't got a new codex yet, and they're going to be the next ones who get one. So there we go. So there's a battle report if you want to see that. I don't. And then there was the coin thing. I never really get the point of this, but fine. You can get a standard Ironkin and a coin. I don't know why you would, but you can. Great. So there we are. Tons and tons of releases on the SQUATCAST. I'm not sure I'm going to do too many other SQUATCASts because the army's going to be out, right? Do I keep updating when the army's already out? Let's see what comes out. Maybe I'll build up a bit of releases and then see what they're like. But they're going to be all over the internet in a couple of weeks because the codex will be out and all the models will be out. Which brings up like what I'm going to do with them, right? So I do want to get a load of these models. I must say I am one of those people who's probably more excited for the Necromunda look of the squats. So one of the things, and of course the other thing is I'm playing a lot of Heresy at the minute. I'm not really playing a lot of 9th edition 40k for obvious reasons because it's a really bad game right now. So I'm if I get these, I'm probably not going to play them in 40k for a while. I really like the idea though of having a little army. So I'm thinking what I might do is get a couple more boxes of the squat prospectors and mix them in with these guys and see how much I can make them look like squattier and mining-ier. I quite like the idea of seeing what I can do with bits of this thing and maybe like a land trainee Necromunda thing. Maybe come up with some force that I can use either as technically a Votann army, though they'll look a lot more low-tech, or a Necromunda gang, or something else. I quite like the idea of that. I'm going to get some. I'll probably get the army set, but I'll probably convert the hell out of them before they are actually usable. I probably won't do that this year because I don't have time in amongst all the other things. But yeah, I'm interested in this. I'm interested what this means for the Necromunda ones as well. Again, I haven't played Necromunda for a while. I imagine I'll get back to that next year. But the look of those I find more fun. Also, of course, I have an old squat army, and a lot of this stuff could translate quite well. A lot of these models could easily be represented by the old squats, especially depending on the base size. In my head, I had decided that the old squats were going to be more of a Horus Heresy squat army, but of course that relies on when the Horus Heresy militia rules come out and if they can still do the same things. So yeah, I mean, I would guess that if I get a chance to play with these over the course of the next rest of the year, I'll probably be using the rules and using my old squats, because I know I'm not going to have a chance to paint them up before the end of the year. And then I think I'll decide what I'm doing after that. I will probably order the army set anyway. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. But there we go. So that's the colossal amount of squat stuff that has come out over the last weeks. Thanks for sticking with me through the SQUATcast. And we will return anon when there is more news, I guess, when more things have been released, if more things will be released. I could totally see this being kind of it for a while as they slowly release those models. But yes, have fun squatting. I look forward to seeing what the hell everyone does with them. See you next time.